I don't know about y'all. I'm ready for tomorrow. I'm ready for Saturday. I say that, but I had classes start back this week, so my weekends mean nothing to me again. So
Mm. Just be ready to roll over every day moving forward.
tell me about it. I can't. I'm doing essentially 50 plus hour weeks right now between work, school, and the different organizations I'm in. And I just signed an offer letter for a position with Cisco for next year. And I'm in the middle of a title transition at my current job. So I'm just like, can I have a day to just sleep for like 12
Well,
hours?
well, luckily you don't have to drive anywhere now. You just do it all from your house.
Actually, my current position, I'm in the office today. I actually come in 4 days a week. So yeah, I
Um,
wish so. Just give it a couple more. Oh, I guess it's already 12:35. So do we have everybody? So I'm not actually seeing the person I was going to start with. Um, is Daniel on here yet? I don't think I see him.
No, it's not on yet.
It's fine. So who's next? I don't see Aster on here yet either. So
Maybe you can start with Mary Andreas.
we can. So I don't want to be disappointing to her though, but so let's see. I thought hers was actually very clean. So all right, so share screen. Are you able to enable sharing screen or are we
Not.
I guess my first question is, are you guys comfortable with your resumes being shared with the group, or do you want me to just, I feel like that's easier so that everybody can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I also don't want to just share everybody's information if you're not comfortable with it. So is everybody that submitted a resume, are you guys okay with that, with everybody seeing it?
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, I think we talked about it to everyone, telling them
Okay.
we're going to review it.
All right, cool. So it's saying that it's still disabled for me to share.
Lori? I don't know if I can do anything.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Okay, I'm
Linda, you're the host. You're the host, Linda.
Great, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I just changed it to all participants, so maybe you can.
Okay. Yep. All right. So let's see. Start with. That's not what I want. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Can you guys see Mary Andreas, her resume?
Yes.
Okay. So this one, I think you did a really good job. The format is very clean. You fit it to one page. You have your email, your phone number, your portfolio link, your GitHub link. So I don't know if you were on the last session. I would create a LinkedIn if you have a LinkedIn and add that up here as well, because your LinkedIn is where you're really going to get to talk about yourself a little bit more. Your resume is just to get you the interview. So, when I read through it, so I can tell that you don't have a ton of technical experience to list. So having this, so a lot of you guys are going to notice I'm going to tell you to cut your kind of about me sections, but for hers, it's really good because she would have had space to fill. The only thing with that is I would format this to fit the formatting of the rest of your resume. So the way it's kind of out here, it's not within the same line structure as the rest, just isn't as appeasing to the eye. Again, we're not going to, so on some of y'all's, we're not going to focus, some of y'all's are really, really appealing to the eye, but we want to, again, the first thing is getting it through the ATS software, which hers would do. But then once it actually gets to somebody, we do want them to be able to read through it very easily. And so I would try to reformat this profile section to match the rest. For your skills, so something I learned, and I didn't mention this the last time I was with you guys, is, so I know when you like Google doing your resume, and especially for like language skills, and it's like, list them if you're strong or if you're not. So after talking to actually people in the industry, they told me to stop doing that. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be the one determining whether you're strong at, MySQL or whatever. So just list them as skills. And then when you're asked about them in the interview, that's when you say, I have, SQL listed on here because I took a semester of it, or I've done, 2 projects with it. There's a lot I feel like I have to learn. That's where you can kind of talk about, or I feel very confident in my customer, service skills or my user support skills. I've got 7 years of experience to back that. So I would take out the strong, intermediate, beginner, and I would instead categorize your skills as technical skills, related skills, or, IDEs, like middleware, front end, back end. I wouldn't categorize them as strong, intermediate, beginner, because again, it shouldn't be up to you to decide that. It needs to be up to the people that you're interviewing with. Because, for example, like we see this on LinkedIn all the time, where you'll have posts, like job posts, where they'll sit there and say, we want an intern, here's an internship position, but you should have 5 years experience with X, Y, and Z, which just doesn't make any sense. And so for every company and every position, their determination of a skill set or a skill level is going to vary. So I wouldn't sell yourself short. I would just get rid of that completely, reorganize. But having the skills up front is really nice, and you did a good job with that. I would just get rid of the strong, intermediate, beginner. And like I said, I would organize it by like I have mine as, front end, back end, middleware, and then technical skills, other skills, or technical skills, relatable skills. So your experience looks good. So this is something we're going to cover in quite a few people's, and you did a pretty good job with this, is we want to try to keep this section consistent. So like, you don't want one job listed and you have, 2 points for it, and then you have another job and you've got 20 points for it. Again, it's not appeasing to the eye, but then it also looks weird. It's going to make hiring managers look at it and say, well, if they were, at this place for a year or 6 months, and then their next place they're at 6 months, but yet they only took away 2 skills in this 6 months at this position, but they took away 20 skills, in this other position. It just kind of looks weird. It's going to make them question it. So we want to try to keep it as consistent as possible. And if it's actually a transferable skill, so like if you're struggling, like for this one, like if it was really easy for you to write all of the, what you've learned with this to be able to put for this position, but you're struggling for this position or this office assistant position, if it's something that's transferable that you can reword that would actually apply to that other position to make it more of a consistent formatting, then that's okay. So like, again, we talked about transferable skills the last time I was on here. So, user support, customer service, communication, management, leadership, team building, teamwork, things like that. If part of your project was working with 6 other people, or you were the team lead of that project, but you were also in a leadership role in another, position that you had. And again, you're struggling for that position to come up with things. Instead of having that leadership role in that first position, move it to the third, try to keep it as consistent as possible. Having your education here and, courses and certifications is great. It's not like you actually listed out courses. So I would actually probably get rid of courses. I would put achievements, in certifications, or maybe just achievements. I think that wording is just a little bit better. It stands out a little bit better to HR. And then you guys are going to hear me repeat this for a lot of you guys too. So something I talked about last time is on your resume as well, when it comes to your experiences, you don't really want to just be listing what your roles were. You can do that on your LinkedIn, and that's where you can kind of expand. You can say, you know, like for this, like where you have mentor of new interns. So like on your LinkedIn for this position, you could have, you know, leadership, and then you could have within leadership, you know, I mentored over X amount of months for X amount of people and taught them, you know, this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill. For this, for your resume, you really want it to be worded either A, numerically, where if you can quantify your achievements or quantify the work you did, you know, whether in percentage form or just any type of numerical form, that's what you want to do, as well as you want to word it as an achievement. So like for mentoring of new interns, if you mentored 10 interns in 6 months, you know, I would find a way to put this on here as, you know, I would say it like that. I would say, you know, I successfully mentored, you know, 10 different students within X amount of time. And then again, on your LinkedIn, that's where you would list that as a leadership role for that position, and you would expand on it. You would talk about what you taught them, you know, or how that went, you know, and just go into a little bit more detail. So it's the same. And I know it gets a little bit harder because you want to be able to put, you know, like, especially for those of us that are doing the programming or, you know, some of the software development side of stuff, you want to be able to say, you know, I developed this, this, or this. So, but like even with this, you know, how many web applications did you develop, or games or web pages using React JS, you know, JS? How many did you actually do in what period of time? So, you know, so again, I might have said this on the last time I was on here. So like part of my role that I started in at the company I'm at, you know, as a programmer analyst, is I have, you know, tickets that come through on some of the sites that I oversee. And we have, you know, a tracker, we have ClickUp, it's similar to Jira. And I took that number, how many tasks, you know, did I complete this month? You know, and if it was 200 tasks, you know, within 30, you know, it's one of those where I can sit there and I can manipulate that math to show a percentage where I'm able to say I've completed, you know, I have a 98% task rate, you know, completion rate on a monthly basis or something like that. So again, a lot of this stuff, especially if you have actually created or developed things, you can put into a numerical form, and that just looks better. Because again, those of us that are looking at resumes, you know, hiring managers and stuff, we want to see, well, what are you going to bring to the company? What are you, you know, cool, you know, you can develop web applications, but so can 50 other people. So how many are you doing? You know, what are these achievements? So again, we don't want to just list the roles that we've had. We want to word them as achievements. But overall, this was one of the easier ones I found to read through. I think you did a really, really good job. The only other thing I would add, which again, we want to keep it on the one page, so I don't want to tell you to add too much where it kind of goes off into a second page. But it is a good idea up here at the top, somewhere to put like your city and state, or city, state, and zip code, wherever you're looking to work, or wherever you're located. That's just kind of it's just kind of a normal practice. So I would add that as well, along with the LinkedIn, reformat this little profile section, get rid of the strong, intermediate, beginner, and then make your formatting consistent as far as the number of points. And then I would reword them again as achievements instead of just listing what you did. And then for courses and certifications, I would either just make it achievements and certifications, or just achievements. But overall, really good job. So Daniel, are you on now? Oh, or I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the, like, when you do a job that's only like a one-time job, how do you want to list it so it looks like, I don't know, it looks good?
So can you give me an example? Like, what do you mean? Like, were you like a mentor for one person for 1 month? Is that what we're talking about? Or like, did you just work an event for a weekend?
Well, it was sort of like the one that Mary Andrea had, where it was like from January 2020 to January 2020. Like, how do you want that to look good? How do you?
You can still list it just like a regular job. I mean, how she had it was fine. I would just, again, I would have taken some of those bullet points from her first experience. And if I can move them to another one of those experiences, I would do that. Or if it's something, for hers, it gets to be a tricky question too, because again, we don't want to just have a bunch of unnecessary information on the resumes either. So for her, since she didn't have a ton of experience, it's fine to have that. But you can have something that's on there for like a one-time job where it says, that January 2020 to January 2020, and still have, four achievements or four bullet points. I mean, it's really how, like, I hate saying this, but it's how you word stuff. Like, we're here, part of your resume is marketing yourself. And you can look up keywords. You can look up, how can I say, you just sit down. Sometimes if I'm at a loss as to, well, crap, what did I do in this position? How am I going to do this? I will sit down and I will write down what my roles were. I will write down what I achieved or what I accomplished. And then I start rewording it from there. And then depending on the amount of space that I have to work with, I usually say 4 bullet points is good. But you can have up to 6. You can have up to more than that, depending on the formatting or how many positions you're actually listing. But I think 4 is kind of a good number to work with on your resume. And I'll sit there and I'll look at my list and I'll say, okay, what are the 4 best things? What are the 4 things, or 4 most unique things, or 4 highest numbers, or the 4 things I can quantify? And that's where I'll take it from there. And you can do that even if you work something. I mean, like a few years ago, I worked one weekend at SuperCon when I had just gone back to school. And even from that, I could sit down and say, well, I did sales, I did marketing, I had customer interaction, so I still had customer, in a sense, it was customer support, helping them find things. So it's just about how you're going to word it. So you sit down and just think about everything you did in that one position, write it down, and then go from there. See if there's something you can quantify, if there's something that's unique, or if there's something that is a transferable skill or a highly sought after skill. Again, anything with customer support, user support, customer relations, team building, leadership, management skills, all of these things are highly sought after skills. So that's what I would do. All right. Hello, Daniel. So yours was my first one on my list. Yours is very, very pretty.
Oh, thank you.
But it is also very long. So
it was actually
this
long.
is one.
You delete some stuff on there.
Was it? I'm not judging. Look, before I went through any training of this, like I think I told you guys, mine was like 7 pages, like 8 months. It was terrible. It was so bad. It was a mini novel. Nobody was going to read it. And nobody did. So until beautiful, beautiful Sonia Hayes, my career advisor. So you have a lot of white space here at the top. So I think you were on the last call. All of this is where you should have it on your LinkedIn. I would get rid of the graphic because the ATS software isn't going to pick up on that. It actually can potentially, depending on what software they're using, it could actually throw an error, which we don't want. Again, we want the goal of the resume is to get through that software, get into the hands of somebody who is a hiring manager and get you an interview. This is just kind of your bait. So this isn't where we have to tell them everything about ourselves. This is just where we want to get them interested. The LinkedIn, and I know I talk about LinkedIn all the time, and I'm telling you, look, I hate Facebook, I hate Instagram, I hate social media, but LinkedIn is so necessary. It's so, so necessary because that is where you can have, like, this is a great image. This is a great profile picture. This is something that should be on your LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Your description about yourself. I mean, that's something that we can reword. I mean, but all of that, I would save it for the LinkedIn. So we don't want all this white space. So I would reformat this whole top section to just have your name, to have your email, to have a phone number, to have if you have a GitHub link or a portfolio link. And again, if you don't have one of those, then we need to create one of those. I know I keep talking about, I'm going to come back and we're going to do a GitHub session, and we will, I promise.
Yeah, I forgot to put that on there.
We will. I swear. Once things calm down, I've started working on trying to put just kind of a basic thing together for you guys. And then your LinkedIn link, and then again, city, state, zip code. So just that basic boom, boom. This is my name. Here's my contacts. Here's where you can find me online, or my code online, or my projects online, and here's my location, and leave it alone. And that, will only take up 2 or 3 lines here at the top. From there, so you have a lot of experience, which is great. So my first comment is, we don't want to do numbers. So we want to do bullet points. We don't want to use numbers. It's just not a formatting that people like to see. Yours is one that I had noticed too. So like we talked about on the last one, we want to make it consistent. So, 4 points for you, I think would be really good. I think that's a really good number for what you have. We're going to cut your Best Buy experience. You have so much experience, Daniel, that it's the same how mine was, where I did a career change. And so mine was so long because I had all of these past positions that I want people to see, but it's not necessarily relevant now. So even with that, some of this stuff we want to cut, like even for yours, I'd like to see yours to get down to 1 page if possible. I know that sounds crazy, but if mine could get cut from 7 pages to 1, I think yours can too. Because there's a lot of the stuff that you can talk about from Best Buy or from your very, your beginning positions that you can list at the top as skills. Again, we want to get them interested, and then we have the most relevant experience. So like some of this goes back to 2016. So like I would probably cut direct source. I would cut Best Buy. For your education, if you're going to list your education, which I do recommend, what associate's degree? So like you need to put, what was your graduation date? Like you have 2014 to 2016, but I would just, if you got it in 2016, I would just put December 2016 or May 2016. I would list the school, and then I would list, is it an associate in applied science? Is it associate in science, associate in engineering? List what it is. Just putting an associate, it just kind of looks bad. You don't need to have your high school on here. We can take that off, especially if you have an associate's degree. We don't need to know that we're going to assume you have a high school diploma. I love that you have your Code the Dream stuff on here, but again, we're going to cut space. I would cut this. This is where you can have this on your LinkedIn. This is something that you have Code the Dream here at the top for experience. So you're already going to get a chance to talk about it. It's going to get brought up in an interview. So you don't need to list it again on that second page. So I would cut that. Your skills need to be cut too. Or you don't even have to because I would like to see yours get to 1 page. You have such a good resume. Like, again, I swear I'm not trying to be hateful. Mine was so long. It was so painful. It took me and a professional working together on like 3 or 4 sessions, like to cut mine. It was pretty bad. And it wasn't that I had a bad resume. I had a lot of experience, and I did a career change, and I have a lot of education and, awards and things. And again, we want everybody to see that, but we just want to get them interested. So my biggest thing to you is I would cut. There's just a lot you should cut, and you should create that LinkedIn to put the rest of it on. Yours as well, I would make sure you're listing these as achievements, not just listing what you've done, because you have done a lot and it's really great. But like, I'm going to be honest, I only had like 7 or 8 resumes I had to look through, and I didn't want to read line by line through every single one. A hiring manager that's getting 50 plus is not going to do it either. We are going to skim, and we're going to look for what stands out. Do you have the skills that match what we're looking for, or that was in that post? Do you have certain things that stand out? So achievements make you stand out. Quantifiable numbers make you stand out. So even with the skills, if you're hesitant to cut, like we could cut like Apple, Windows 10. Again, we're going to kind of expect you, Android, we're going to expect you to know that. If you're applying for a position with Microsoft, or that is, Windows based, or if it's Linux based, we're going to expect you to know that. And like one of the things I always tell people too, we live in a day and age, especially if you're in the tech field, you don't have to list like Microsoft stuff. Like we expect you to know how to use Excel, unless you're proficient in Excel, like you are high level master, like you have a certification or taken quizzes, you know what I mean? Like to show like, hey, I can do all these things in Excel that, 90% of people can't do. We expect you to be able to do that stuff. We expect you to know the environment, or at least have a basic understanding of the environment. So those are things that are really easy that you can cut. And then again, I would just kind of list them to save space. I would list them horizontally. So I don't know if you remember how mine kind of looked, but where you could sit there and kind of like what we talked about on the last resume, where you can say, front end or languages, or databases or middleware, and then you just kind of list them out that way, and that helps conserve space. And then that way those skills are getting picked up in the ATS software, but then you're not taking up half a page where I'm just scrolling and going to lose interest. I love that you have the languages. I love that you are bilingual. I think that is a great thing to have on your resume. I would actually probably, if possible, I would find a way to move that to the top. Okay. Or even if there's a way to incorporate it in your header, instead of having this about you, because I would cut this too. I would find a way, if you don't have this listed, any of this listed in your skills already, find a way to reword that in your skills. But you don't need a profile summary. You have enough experience and enough on your resume that's going to speak volumes. You don't have to do this. Okay. But I would find a way to put that you are bilingual up here. That's something, if I was going through it, I want to see immediately. I want to make sure people are seeing that, because that's a great facet to have. So, and certifications, great. Achievements. So I would do kind of like what I said on the last one. I would probably combine these together just to save space. I would do certifications and achievements, or just achievements, and then list them that way. And again, even with that, if you're trying to keep it on that one page, you can list those horizontally. That's how I have mine, because I have multiple badging from IBM and things like that. So I ended up, instead of, again, trying to keep mine to one page, I listed mine just out in a line. I just have certifications and then what I have underneath it. And that's what I would do for yours. Yours has great content. You just need to cut. That's really the biggest thing for yours, is just cut, get rid of these numbers, keep it consistent. Again, I think 4 bullet points. If you cut these two and this, cut this down and list it horizontally, I think, and then you put, 4 bullet points for these up here, I think we could get yours to one page, especially getting rid of all the white space up here.
Okay. Yeah, the bottom resume monk thing, that's just like a draft copy.
Got you. Got you. Yeah, I think it did that for a lot of the people that used those. All right.
I have a question. What are your thoughts on cover letters?
So cover letters are, if they say you can include one, I think you should include one. Now I'm going to add a caveat to that. So everybody will sit there and they'll say cover letters can only help you. They will only help you if you are grammatically correct. They will only help you if you are not listing what's already on your resume. So I don't advocate for them every single time. I think that if you have Grammarly on your computer, use some type of grammar checker and spelling checker. I read all the time and I still make mistakes. So use it. Especially if you're going to send an email, you're going to add a cover letter, you're going to do any type of writing. Your cover letters should only be one page as well. They should not be reiterating information that's already on your resume. Those really should only be, again, if you made a career change. So like for Daniel, he had all of those things and I'm telling him to cut some of his experience. Now, if in the position he's applying for, some of that experience that he's cut to make his resume, more efficient and have a better chance of going through, but he's got this experience that's very relevant to the position he's applying for, and he wants to make sure that they're aware of it, that is the place for the cover letter. But they're not necessary all the time. I hear people always say they can only help you, but I've seen cover letters that will absolutely hurt people. When they're too long, when they're redundant, when they're not formatted correctly, or when the spelling is terrible or the grammar is off. So personally, I think that if you are very comfortable with writing, and you, again, if you are making a career change or you have 15, 20 years of experience and you need to be able to express that upon the initial application, they're good for that. But outside of that, I don't necessarily recommend them. Is Aster on?
Yeah. Sorry for late.
Hello.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I can tell that you formatted yours very close to mine, and I feel very good about it. No, I'm just kidding. No, yours looks really good. So the only thing, not the only thing, but one of the things that I've learned too, and we want to cut some of this white space for sure. I would, so the only thing I don't necessarily like, and it's something that I was told as well, is so how it's going into the second page and then it kind of cuts off. Like it's really, again, we kind of want formatting to be consistent. But I don't necessarily, so for yours, I mean, I'm going to tell you the same thing I kind of told Daniel. I would cut it in a sense. I would get rid of your professional summary to save space. This stuff right here, being a software engineer 5+ years and having these skills, your resume should reflect that. And then having more than 2 years of technical support, you shouldn't have to say that. And we want to save space. And it's also something that you can talk about in your interview. So I would cut that. I would cut this white space if you're able to and move the date back over, because again, that's going to save you a whole line. And you can do that on down here as well. And then I would cut your bullet points. I would like to see yours, like with Daniel's, I would like to see yours as at 1 page. I think that it's perfectly capable of being 1 page. I think that you have a lot that you put on here, but we don't need to see every single bullet point. You could cut yours down to 4 to be able to fit all of these on here. And you can even combine some of your skills together. Which, I mean, yours is, it's beautiful, but I would cut, I mean, really the only thing I have for you is I would just cut it to 1 page. I would reword these, like I said, maybe 4 bullet points. That's usually my go-to number because that's usually the best to format as far as fitting 3 positions onto 1 page. And I would, as far as your education, having a hard time seeing this. I would get rid of this evaluation upon request. Like I would get rid of kind of the explaining it, because like for me, I'm not going to explain I have 3 associate's degrees, which are, you know, what I have, even though I'm still going to go for a bachelor, I'm going to get that piece of paper. What I have currently is the equivalence of a computer science bachelor's degree. I have the same classes, the same class types, the same credit hours, etc. But I'm not explaining it on my resume. Now, if I'm asked about it in an interview, again, that's where I'm going to explain it. I would list your education, but I wouldn't explain it. If they ask you in the interview, then that's when you can say, you know, it's equivalent to a United States bachelor's degree. This is what it was. This is what I did. But I wouldn't explain it on the resume. And then same for this, I would get rid of professional development to cut space and just leave it at, I would just make this header or the section certifications. Yeah, for yours, I wouldn't do achievements. I would just make it certifications. And then I would also list those horizontally, like I told Daniel, to save space. So, but yours was really great. Yours was actually one of the easiest ones to read through. I think you did an amazing job. I would just cut it to 1 page.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I did want to say this too. Same for this, the permanent work authorization and no visa sponsorship required. Most applications are going to ask you that. So again, to cut space, I would get rid of that. I would also and this is where I would add a LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn, I'm going to keep telling it to all of you guys, create a LinkedIn. But most applications ask if you need this. So cut it from your resume. And if they don't ask, it's none of their business. Okay. So don't just offer up information like that. That's my advice.
When you're naming things, do you want them to be in numerical order? Like if they're like by year?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So when it comes to education, or when it comes to education and when it comes to experience, it should always be most recent, so most current, and then going down from there. And that's where too it becomes easier to start cutting. So Daniel, I'm sorry, I keep coming back to yours, but like with Daniel's, like he had, going back to like Best Buy from like 6 years ago, when he's already had enough experience within the last couple of years. We want the most relevant experience. Again, the LinkedIn, the interviews, the generalization skills or list of skills, that should be where you can incorporate, all of that past experience. Like I don't, at 30 years old, I don't talk about my first job at 13, or my job at Food Lion at 15. Now, when I talk about having customer service skills, I say I have 15 years, I have got going on 15 years of experience, because I do, and if they really start hammering questions and getting in depth about that, then that's where I say, well, I technically started working, when I was 15, for me, it was 13 on a farm, but 15 years old at Food Lion, and, at that time I interacted with X amount of customers, on a weekly basis doing blah, 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 blah. So, but when we're trying to keep it, like I said last time, resumes should never be more than 2 pages, and they really should only be 2 pages if you have 10, 15, 20 years of experience and you've done career pivots. So if you've gone from being an engineer to a business analyst to a software developer, that's different. But even if you have 15 straight years of, working with databases, we only need that most relevant experience. And you have the skill sets, at the top, again, to kind of cover anything that we're cutting at the bottom. You have your LinkedIn to cover the rest. You have the interview to talk. We just want to get the people interested. Right. Chuck, do you go by Chuck?
Yep.
I'm assuming you do, since that's how it's listed.
Yep.
So yours was really pretty to read through too.
Thank you.
Great formatting. So, and I like that you put your interests and hobbies. So in the name of saving space, I might tell you to get rid of that. And you're a disc golfer. Hey, me too. Yeah. Very cool. So I know for a fact that Cisco likes to see lines like this. I can't say factually for any other company, but Cisco, they like to see kind of this personalization. Now, again, if we can save space, I'm going to tell you to cut it and add it to your LinkedIn. But I did like that you added that. I thought that was a nice touch. So you kind of have yours listed out the way I would want to see somebody's LinkedIn to be a little bit more. The thing that I guess kind of confused me is you have the software developer intern up here, and you have the dates, which is great, but then dates for anything else. So are all of these like separate jobs, or?
They're all projects through Code the Dream, except for the last one.
Okay, so
that one I just did on my free time.
Was this just a? Okay. So I'm gonna tell you, like I told the last two, you need to cut yours to 1 page. You don't have enough experience to where it should be going into 2. I like that you have your cell and your email, and having it formatted this way is great. Again, I would add your location. So if it's like Raleigh, North Carolina, Cary, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, add that. Get you a LinkedIn, add that. If you have a GitHub, add that. I would potentially cut your professional summary or personal summary if you find that you are running out of space on this first page. I would get rid of the word relevant, just use the word experience. And then since these are all projects, I would list them as projects.
Okay.
So If you're going to list them as experience like that, then it needs to be formatted the way an actual job is. So you would need to have dates, but I would personally, I would list them as projects. I would have this as experience. I would have projects, and then instead of doing like project title, bullet point, and then all these bullet points, I would do project title, the date of that project, and then do like a quick one line, hit the main points. We used, Java interfaces to implement, X, Y, and Z, or we did blah, 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 blah. And then again, on your LinkedIn is where you actually can link these projects and you can talk about them more in depth. This right here, we just want people, we want to show, hey, I have this experience, it's not real world work experience, but I have experience with Java, JavaScript, Go React, GitHub, whatever it is. I did this, I understand transmutable, classes, I understand abstract classes, or I understand, enumeration, whatever that you need to do for that. And I would cut it to one page. Now, something I like that you have the education, I would move that to the top. I would get rid of this from underneath that. So did you get what did you get from Wake Tech?
I just took classes there until I started
You
the
just took
internship.
classes. Okay.
Yeah.
So got you. Okay. So for education, then I would just leave your actual degrees. Okay. And obviously what you got and the dates, like how you have this formatted is great. But for all of this,
Rebecca,
sorry.
Say when you were talking about real world work experience, things like ACT that he has on there, that is actually a collaboration with the FDA and the Clinical Trials Transformation Initiative, and it's an actual live app that's been available for many years.
Perfect.
So these things you guys listed here, like garbage gears and stuff, are actually being used by people.
Got you. So if it's so my thing is, what I mean by real world work experience though is that you actually have a title. It's an actual position. If we're going to list it as work experience. So this is another way that you could reword this, where instead of, again, I never use the word relevant. You can put I
guess backend developer would be his title, a junior developer.
Right, but again, so like on a lot of the ways that the applications are formatted online, especially for like the bigger companies, they're going to ask if whatever experience you have listed on here, if you have it listed like a job, they're going to give you fields that you have to add, was it a part-time, was it a full-time, what was your actual position, what was your compensation? And that technically,
I guess because it would be job right? Like if you think of kind of an app farm or app development firm, we develop apps for other people or work on apps for other people. So under the title Code the Dream, the different apps that he's worked on.
That's a great idea. So that's what I would do for that specific thing is I would move that to under, like you said, under Code the Dream, and maybe put whatever the title was, app developer, and then whatever, you can list your points that way. But again, when I think of work experience, I'm thinking of you were interviewed, you were hired, you were compensated financially, you had an actual title that if I called an HR office, they're going to confirm it for me. And that's how, again, a lot of your standardized companies are going to go about this. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're wording your experiences. But as I did say last time, projects that you do in school, projects you're doing with Code the Dream, projects you've done on your own, absolutely count as experience. But we also don't want to mislabel them as work experience and then be questioned about it in an interview and get somebody who is going to say, well, what was your actual title? Do I have where did you work? How long were you there? We don't want to get stuck on those questions because it's not fitting the full thing. So I would leave that up to you, but I like that idea, Crystal. I think I appreciate you pointing that out. And I think that's actually a good idea. I think that if it was something done with Code the Dream, I think it's something that you can move up here for that. If you have room to leave the interests and hobbies, I would leave them. Again, I think that's a nice little personal touch. But just kind of like with everybody else's, cut it. And then even the link that you have here. So this is where, like these links that you have, this is where at the very top, you should have an online portfolio. You should have one GitHub or LinkedIn and or, you know, website. You know, we should have one link that takes us to all of these projects. We don't need to take up space or have individual links for each one. They're not going to click through that. That's how my first one was formatted. And I was told this by 3 different people to get rid of that. And that's when I was told that I needed to clean up my GitHub, which I am still trying to work on at some point. But besides that, I mean, good job. Your formatting looks great. I would keep the formatting the way that you have. I would just cut it. I would reword this experience. I would cut some of these bullet points. I would, you know, if it was just a project, like even the one like you were talking about, like the cryptocurrency trading bot, I think that's really cool, actually. One of my coworkers does this on the side. I would reword this as a project and I wouldn't have it listed in bullet points. I would just, again, I would kind of, if it's just like a one-time project that you've done, I would list that project, whatever the dates or whatever the time range was for it, and then give a brief, just a real brief description of it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Jorge?
Yep. Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
Hey.
Look at you. You got your GitHub, you got your LinkedIn. I am so proud of you.
I just did it and sent it back. No, just kidding.
So proud. Love it. And I could see that whatever this did, it looks like it kind of just repeated all of that on the second page, which we don't want. So I did notice this morning. So first thing on yours, having your degree listed, again, having education listed is always a good thing. I would probably move yours to the top since it's pretty simple, but cut these courses. Put those on your LinkedIn. You don't need these on your resume. I made that mistake too. Again, I think my second draft of my resume had all my courses listed. And it was my first Cisco mentor that told me to cut all of them. So cut those. As far as, so I liked that yours is pretty consistent too, which I liked. So even though like this one, you only have 2 bullet points because it was 2 lines each, it read really nicely. It formatted the way that we like to see them. So I wouldn't even tell you necessarily to change these 2 to 4 or these 3 to 4 because the space you're taking up is very similar. And that's something I should have mentioned to you guys earlier too, where for doing something like this, again, it's kind of about the formatting. We want it to just kind of go through very smoothly. So I thought this was really cool, but it takes up a lot of space and it's very redundant. I like that you listed the skills and tools for each individual project. But as you can see, yours kind of got pushed to a second page and it doesn't need to be. Yours can easily be on one page and should be on one page. And a lot of these are redundant. They repeat themselves. So like get, you know, all of this. So that is where at the top, I would just list skills. I would just list what languages do you know, what, you know, skill sets do you have, what middleware have you used, and combine it all into one little section like that so that you can save space. And then that way, again, we don't want to be repeating ourselves. Nobody's going to go through this and read it line by line, especially if they start seeing that stuff is repeating, they're going to lose interest. But overall, I think you did a really great job. I'm sorry that I don't have more to give you.
No, those are great points, actually. Yeah, I've been meaning to know what to do with those skills and tools, and I did see that I kept repeating myself. But I started with that formatting, so I didn't know what to do with them. But I think just listing them as just skills, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Just put them at the top, move your education to the top, cut those courses, and I think yours would easily go to one page. But besides that, I think it looks amazing. I think you did a really good job.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I know that we're starting to run out of time too. Jonathan, yours was really amazing too. Don't hate me. Yeah.
Can you do Quasi's first? I think he's here.
Yeah. Hello, Quasi. Yeah, so actually it's kind of good we're running out of time because y'all's were, I don't have a lot for you guys. Quasi, yours was great. The only thing I have for you, just like the last one, is go ahead and move it to one page. You shouldn't have this runoff. It's not enough to go into a full 2 pages. So I would move it to one, and you could easily do that by just kind of messing with some of these spacing up here. You don't even have to cut anything if you didn't want to. And you could easily get it to one page, or you could actually cut your objective to do that. But you have your LinkedIn. I do want to point this out. I had said this when I was here last time. Something I learned that has changed is, so we want your location, so like the city, state, zip code, but we don't put your actual address. So get rid of this part. And that is because there are some companies that will, if it's like down to you and one other person, if you have your address listed like that, they will Google your address and see how far you are from the office and use that to determine. Like it's really weird, some of the stuff that I've learned at some of these conferences. So that's the only thing I would tell you is just cut that part of your address out. Potentially get rid of the objective. We don't necessarily, again, that's what the interview is for. And move yours to one page. But besides that, I thought yours looked really great too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And
He did the thing with code and the projects listed underneath it.
Yeah, see, and I think that looks, let me pull his back up again. Like in that, and that works really, really well. But how he has it, it doesn't read the same as the last one. Where the last one, it looked like there was multiple work experiences and multiple positions at different places, which is not the case. So it is, it's just about how you format it. Like, I think, and again, I'm a big fan of just using the word experience. I don't really like to break it up into relevant experience or technical experience or whatever, because it's all experience. It's all relevant, right? Like we all have to be able to do, we all have to be able to talk to people. We all have to be able to sell ourselves or sell some part. Whether you're hardcore engineering, you're going to have to learn how to work with a team. The role I'm going into next year is extremely technical, and it's on the engineering side. And half of my interviews were still about, can you work with a team? Can you talk to people? Because that's what you're doing. It's not just coding and doing the technical side. So I love that he listed the experience, and I like that he did it this way. So Chuck, this is a good example if you wanted to reformat yours closer to this instead of having to list projects and doing it that way. But anything you did on your personal time, I would still list as projects. I would not list that. I think that is separate from just being kind of experience. But Code the Dream is also unique. So there's different people, there's different boot camps where I don't know if I'd give the same advice, but who is left? Let's see.
Jonathan.
All right. So Jonathan's, I didn't have, really for his, again, just cut this to one page. It has one line that I think was just repeated. So that's just a formatting thing that I would fix so that it's not pulling as two. I would also cut the address, again, just leave Durham NC in the zip code. You have that. I would add an email. I like that the formatting was over here for this. I think that's a good thing too. If people are trying to save space, guys, this is a good way to go about it. I do like how he kind of formatted this, and it works just as well. But with his, I really don't have anything besides that except just go back through, get rid of this address, and format it to fit to one page. This looks really, really great. And then even how he did this without doing bullet points, it reads very nicely. The formatting is consistent.
So
one question on this
Yeah.
one.
You can go.
Sorry,
ahead.
Linda.
You can go.
So I guess just a question is, I like the side bar, whatever, inside the languages and all that. It's great. But when I feel like I'm getting lost when I'm trying to read the description of the jobs, because they're great as well. Would you
Yeah.
do those like darker, maybe like black or black
So
font with the
I think, yeah, so I think that that is a good point. I would, I also am curious about this font, just because it looks a little small.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would do it a little bit darker. So, and even with the sides, this is just personal preference. This isn't me telling you to do this. So I like the way this looks, but I also find that what you were just saying too, it's easy to get lost in something like this. Whereas when you have the stuff kind of line by line by line, it's very easy, especially again, you need to put yourself into these hiring managers positions. And especially, you know, if you're applying for big companies, if you're applying for the Ciscos, for the Microsofts, for the Googles, they are getting, you know, there's thousands of applications that are going through that ATS software, you know, and even after that eliminates, you know, we'll say 3/4 of them, you know, your hiring manager is still going through hundreds of applications. And if they're not going through hundreds, think of still having to go through 50 applications or 25 applications. It's a lot. So we want to make sure that we're not just getting our resumes tossed to the side because they can't read through them, or they're not going to sit here and read all of this line by line. So actually, I'm going to take back what I said. I love the way this looks. I think it's beautiful, but I think that it should be bullet pointed. I think that you should bullet point it as achievements, like what I've said for the rest of them, because again, we just want it to stand out. We want, if you're the 25th resume somebody's looking at in, you know, an hour and they're skimming through it, we want to make sure that they're able to easily read through it and that they're seeing what we want them to see, that they're picking up on exactly what we want them to pick up on, to where they're going to say, oh, okay, cool. You know, they have this experience, they have these skills, it matches what we're looking for. I'm going to put them in this file because I want to give them a call. I think this is really pretty, but I would bullet point this. I would change this color to be a little bit darker. Again, I would cut the address, add an email, and make sure it's formatted to one page.
Would he want to add his GitHub?
Yes, was that not on there?
And also the white space, he has a lot of white space in his resume. Would he want to like add more stuff into it so like it looks more
so
full?
not necessarily. So so when we talk about cutting space, it's because we have so much information that we're trying to get on there, and we have to cut space. Now if we don't have to, we don't have to. So having the white space isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can make it easier to read through, it can make it easier on the eyes. I don't think that I would at most, for formatting sake, just probably add a line or something here, because it is kind of a big gap. But really, the rest of the white space on it, I mean, I think it's fine. I don't think it's hindering him at all on this one. Because that's something else too, is we don't necessarily want our resumes to be super convoluted either. Because again, when you think about it, sorry guys, when you think about it actually getting to a person, think about yourselves. Think about, again, you know, you sit down and try to read, you know, print off 4 or 5 resumes and try to read through them in 30 minutes and see what you start picking up on and see what you start, you know, what starts standing out to you or what you start skimming over and skipping and that you're not interested in. It's going to be the same for people who do that as their job, or if that's part of their job. I can guarantee you, nobody wants to have to look at, again, hundreds of resumes every single day and read through it line by line, or try to go through the formatting and find what they're looking for, you know, whether it's a skill set or an experience level or whatever. So again, we want to make it as easy as possible. We don't want it to be super convoluted. And that's why I keep talking about the formatting needs to be consistent. So if even with his having the white space, because he kind of had it everywhere, it fit fine, it looked fine. But if he has more that he could add, I would. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to him even getting rid of the side stuff and just listing it all horizontal, doing the horizontal layout like everybody else's has been. Because again, I personally find those to be easier to read through when I'm looking through multiple resumes. Whereas with his, I'm having to look over where I'm like, where are his skills? Where are his certifications? So it looks pretty, but it's not the easiest to read either. So, but his wasn't super convoluted, so I wouldn't say it would necessarily hurt him as badly as some of the ones I've seen. So, all right, guys, I know that we're out of time, but does anybody have any questions? I know that I feel like this was a little rushed. So, and I told Linda this at the beginning, I am more than happy if you guys do the tweaks or make tweaks and you're not sure. If you want to email them to her and she forward them on to me, I'm more than happy to take a little bit more time to double check through them and then send them back. It might not be immediate. It might take me through September because I am in school and I am working, as well as I've got a few other things going on. But I am more than happy to do that because, again, I just want to be here to help everybody. We want jobs. You know, you guys are spending a lot of time with Code the Dream, learning these skill sets, doing this. The end goal is to get you to get paid for it, to get you to where you want to be. So if there's anything I can do outside of these sessions to help with that, I'm more than happy to.
Would you be okay with them friending you on LinkedIn so that like they can send their resume over for like another review?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, guys. Add me. So I need to update my stuff too on LinkedIn at some point. But yeah, add me. I check it pretty much daily. So
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Casa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all having